Yah Yisrael. It is about 5:30ish right now. But I wanted to talk to you more about the scripture Jeremiah 51:12. But before we do that, let's give the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew, the Tefillah. Tefillah Avenu Sabashamayim, Yikadar Shemeakar, Tavomaku Teakar, Yer Serizonka, Kivashamayim Kain Ba'aretz, Alekin Kukenu, Tain Lanu Hayom, Uslaklanu, Al Kartayenu, Kimo Chaso Kain, Gamanatanu, Lako Tiin Lanu, Beal Tefienu, Lade Nisayon, Bakasenu, Minhara, Kilaka, Hamamlaha, Begibara, Beteferet, Leolame, Olami, Sila. Praise Yahweh. Alright, so where we last left off yesterday was evidence, right? Which is the proof, the reason to believe, the facts behind it all, showing forth data, looking at the signs and the symptoms to help you diagnose the situation, and to look at the title and deeds as well as the paper. Now, the title and deeds and paper, that would be talking about the Bible, of course. And it's being able to study the Bible and to find the proof, the reasons to why things are happening the way they are, as well as to believe your facts as you find it, right? It's how you trust into your data, because you'll be able to look at the signs of Yahweh and the signs of the troubles that we are all in, and looking at the symptoms, you know how we got there, and you'll know how to be able to save yourself from the sudden destruction. We're going to be picking back up from the word armor, right? Armor was a word that came from standard. And armor is the colossus or the defense, right? So this is talking about, again, military as well as tactics, right? Setting up tactics. It can even be surveillance, and then of course it's the physical approach of reinforcing the ones that are at the border, right? New trucks, radios, and things of that nature. Now, colossus is the Philistinism, or the hardness of hard-hearted people, of shell-minded people, and people who have formidable defense. Now, defense is the armature, but Philistinism is a smug conventionalist. So now this is really pinpointing a type of person or even a type of passage to get to a certain position. Now, a conventionalist or a conventionalism is not original or spontaneous. And in fact, it lacks the traditions of getting to a certain spot or acquiring certain power. Now, the only conventionalist that we have in office would be Trump. If you realize, all ex-presidents have some form of prior military or government positions. Trump is the only president I'll say one of the only presidents who have not had a military background, neither did they have a prior government career, because Trump was a realtor agent. He bought hotels and things of that nature and businesses, and he became president. So he lacks the mere traditions of a person sitting in that seat would have been or would have gone through, because again, 99.99% of your presidents, have a military background, or they have some form of government job that they held for years, right? Now, the standard is a flag, also a sail, by implication a flagstaff, generally a signal or a token, like a banner, right? And is to gleam from afar and be conspicuous as a signal, and is to lift up as an ensign. Now, ensign is two words. It's en and then sign, right? And it's to wane, that is be sick. Now, en is a prefix occurring originally in loanwords from French that is productive from French, and it shows forth productivity in the English language on this model. Now, it forms actions, right, with the general sense of causing a personal thing to be in a place or condition or state. It's named by the stem, but more specifically, is to confine in or place on, like enslave, entrust, enrich, so on and so forth. And it's there to restrict you in the manner of that name by which the stem is an additional sense on all sides. So it's completely enwinded, encircled, and enclosed, right? So the en, right, side is something that has you completely enclosed, and it's typically comes with restrictions, right? So, the inside is we are all confined to being restricted. You can't work outside of the prophecy. No matter how you try to work it, you will follow the prophecy. And you may think that you will overcome the prophecy, but you won't, right? Because you're in it. You are encircled around it completely on all sides. So you will get it done, whether if it's in a figurative manner or in a literal sense, or even in a transitive sense, you're going to get that done, because Yahweh's words will not return unto him cold or a lie. So stem is the underlining format, which often consisting of a root, right, which is a plus of an affixtion, or to which the inflectional endings of a word are added, right? And in Latin, the tendry to stretch the root, which is 10. So again, and in Hebrew, the 10th consonant is Yud, which is the very spiritual nature. It's the very spirit of God, right? Because to come up with any of the Hebrew consonants, Yud is in every one of them. So it's the very omnipresent of Yahweh. So Yahweh is that stem that controls the N, right? The EN, which is again the loan words that shows forth a production. So that's action. And you are again encircled. You can't get outside of it. Yud is the omnipresent for all. Yud is in all the Hebrew alphabets, and it again encircles and enwinds as well as enclose. So you again, N is in every Hebrew alphabet. There is no getting out of it. Though he chose to be the 10th consonant, and Aleph chose to be he chose Aleph to be the first, right, component that you run into in the alphabet. It's still Yud is the omnipresent. That's why it's 1 and 0, because again, 1 it correlates with I, right? And 0, that's infinity. So I am infinity. The 1, Yahweh, is infinite. Praise Yahweh. Because again, in the word en is again it's an abbreviation for name as well as born. So check that out. Now sail, right? Because it said the the standard is also a flag or also sail. Now sail is the EG, which is the float of a Portuguese ship called man of war. Now, I find this crazy because in Exodus 15:3, it says the Lord Yahweh is a man of war, right? So this is, again, pointing back to Yahweh's characteristics, even in the word standard. Yahweh is the one manipulating and pulling the strings to make everything coerce towards the way he wants it to get there, and staggering certain conditions so that things can happen in a gradual succession and not just in a really fast speed. Because Yahweh is trying to give everybody a chance to grasp what's going on and to see, the prophecies being fulfilled in order to cause you to say, okay, hey, I got the evidence, the data looks good, the facts is there, I got the deed, I got the paper, I got the book, I'm going to follow the law. Right? Token is a thing servicing as a visible or tangible representation of that fact. So it's the quality, the feeling, etc. It's like the same thing as a badge or favor worn to indicate the allegiance to a particular person or party, a member of the minority group, including and otherwise the homogeneous set of people, in order to give the appearance of diversity, the attributive characteristics of helping you with the sake of appearance as a symbolic gesture. So for us, in this sense, again, a lot of things is being done. The king of Babylon, he's extra paranoid. He's been trying to get the standard, the watch strong, because of worldly events transpiring with, like, for instance, Genesis 47:15 is a prophecy of Egypt's dollar starting to fail or starting to be crippled, right? And Egypt, in her time and in all of her fame and glory, was one of the most powerful nations. So you could say that the currency was highly favored at that time before it started to dissipate and loses its value. It's the same thing right now. The American dollar since World War II was a powerful, substance to help America build its equity, right, by making it the world currency. But now you have countries wanting to utilize their own currency, so they are coming up with a new allegiance, right? Since the Cold War, they're coming up with new allegiance, right? Since World War II, they're coming up with new allegiance, and they're calling it the BRICS. And BRICS are countries, like powerful countries like Russia, China, Korea, India, and a few other countries that are coming together, because with the BRICS, they can utilize their own currency instead of the American dollar to help boost up their economy and loosen the control of America's influence, right? And America, of course, being the greedy country it is, don't like that too much, because they want that American dollar to be the in the forefront. But it's starting to lose its value. And that's why they even coming out with things like Bitcoin. They're trying to move you away from paper dollars, not because it's better. They ain't trying to kill no trees, but it's because they'll be able to manipulate the society a whole lot better, because then they can just freeze your account if you don't want to abide by their rules, if you don't want to take that mark of the beast, right? And the beast is not a physical beast that's going to be roaming around on the earth. It's a computer in Europe, and they call this thing, it's a supercomputer, and they call it the beast, right? Because this thing is like AI generated, and it's able to expand its reach, its outlook, its growth. It can learn, right? And they call it the beast. So with that, they'll be able to control societies and cripple you to say, okay, you don't want to do what we tell you to do. Well, go have fun starving, have fun, becoming dehydrated. And if anybody help you, they can have fun with you. It's all about control. Why do you think they've been going paperless for the last 5-6 years? A lot of businesses don't even take cash anymore. They just take credit, because they're transitioning you over time. They're blinding you to think that, paper dollars is out. Everything's going to be so much faster with cashless. No, they're moving into a period of like 1984, that book where it was all about Big Brother controlling the citizens. And if you didn't do what they wanted you to do, well, then they can starve you until you either died or you surrendered and you gave in to what they wanted you to take, right? So looking at that, he's doing all of this because he's seeing Hebrews with these white robe sets and Yahweh's names on our bracelets and our on our diadems, right? Our sakni. So we walking down the street with Yahweh badges and stuff on these white robe sets, right? Our Michaels, right? And it's getting him nervous. He's seeing the symbolic gesture of, hey, these Hebrews are starting to wake up to the truth. So that means we're starting to get close to that time where we are going to be destroyed. So set up the watch. Why do you think they came up with Space Force? Because it sounded cool. They're trying to find ways to surveillance the heavens so that they can see when things are about to happen, so that they can plan accordingly and try to attack or try to have countermeasures, right? It's not because they want to be up there and they're trying to really explore space. Like, no, they're trying to have surveillance in the heavens so that they can see Yahweh, or they could try to learn the secrets of Yahweh in order to obtain some form of a plan to survive their ultimate destruction. That's what they're doing. Yahweh ben Yahweh came to his people in 1979, right? Which is 5,983 years on the solar calendar from creation. And at the age of 44, well, 4 plus 4 is 8. That's 2 foundations. So he came when he was complete, when he had learned, when he had the knowledge of America and the knowledge of himself. Like Moses. Moses was perfect in the knowledge. Why? Because he had the knowledge of Pharaoh, and he also had the knowledge of him, of his people, of himself. Right? That's completion. Praise Yahweh. Make you think. And as well as keeping scriptures, Acts chapter 7, verse 23, when he was a full 40 years old, it came unto his heart, his mind, to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. Right? Now, full from the Greek reference 4137 is to replete, which is abundantly fed or filled and complete. So when he was abundantly filled with the knowledge of how to restore, how to rebuild, and how to reconnect, then he came to do exactly that. The fourth consonant in the Hebrew is Dachlet, which symbolically represents the door or the poor man, right? Yehuda is poor without Yahweh. And Yahweh told Abraham a prophecy in Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 and 14, as well as in Acts in the New Testament, chapter 7, verse 6, chapter 7, verse 6 through 7, when it actually came true in the New Testament. It's the same prophecy, right? It says, again, know of a surety that thy seed to be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and they shall be afflicted, and they shall be entreated evil for 400 years. But after that 400 years, I'm going to go myself, Abraham, and I am going to re-educate them. I am going to visit them. I am going to save them, and then I'm going to restore them. Right? And that's where we're at right now. That he would, again, appear unto us after 400 years, slavery in a far-off land. We know, that, again, Sodom and Egypt resembles America, and America resembles Sodom and Egypt, right? So, again, when looking at the data and the evidence, Yahweh said he's going to come to his people after we serve 400 years. And, of course, he's going to come as the form of the Son, which then he would have to be crucified as well. So they want to tell you that a man named Jesus, which comes from the root word of Zeus, which is, again, tied to Roman mythology, false, died 2,000 years ago, right? And all of this stuff, and how he was hit in the head with a thorn crown, and they pushed it down, and he was thirsty, and he asked for water, but instead they gave him a sack full of vinegar and all of this stuff to make you feel really bad and cry and bawl your tears out and boogers running down your nose. But it did not happen like that. All right. A man did walk the earth 2,000 years ago. His name was Yeshua ben Yosef. But Yeshua ben Yosef was the prototype, just how Moses was the prototype. Because if Yeshua ben Yosef, which is, again, Yeshua ben Yosef, is different from Yahweh. So when he says, I come in my Father's name, Yeshua cannot be the same as Yahweh. It's not. We had Yeshua ben Nun. We had Yeshua the high priest. So, and then, the Father and the Son are one. So they're the same person. It's just, again, the Son chooses to be visible because he's the firstborn creature and then he created all things for his pleasure, which consists of him. And you can find that in Colossians chapter 1, right? Verse 17, verse 15, and 16, right? He is the image of the invisible God. So he is God himself. So again, God himself would not choose a different name and then say, I come in my Father's name. No, you don't. If your name is Bob and your dad's name is Jimmy, you don't come in his name. Your name is different. It alternates. It's not the same, right? But again, Yahweh said after 400 years, he would come to his people. Well, we was first sold in America by 1524 in Jericho, South Carolina. But after they revolted the slaves and they was able to destroy that encampment, and some of us fled into the wilderness of America, about another like 40, 50 years later, that's when they started to reach the South Florida area with the slave, and they knew that they had to break the slave spirit. So that's why he was stopping off in the islands, and they were performing heinous acts like buck breaking. Buck breaking was when the men would be raped by the slave plantation owners in the sugar islands and stuff like that, and then they would cause the men to rape each other to break down their masculinity. And that's when sagging was introduced, because they would rape the men and then they would have them sag their pants so everyone would know that they just got done being anally raped, and that would kill off the fighting spirit in them, as a way to break their spirit. And then they would get them over here, and then of course they would continue to break their spirit with, okay, now you can't read, now you can't do this, now you can't speak this language, now we're gonna change your names, now we're gonna steal this, we're gonna take that, we're gonna do this, right? So we served 400 years of that bondage. So from 1554, right, to 1954, that's 400 years. Now, again, when we first came here, it was 1524, right? So 1524 plus 400 is 1924. Now, the Messiah was born 1936, right? Fishborn, Oklahoma, I want to say. So you see how after 400 years, he is born, and then he comes to us in his 40s. So it's all following prophecy. And then it tells us another hint that the Messiah would be crucified in the place called, spiritually called, Sodom in Egypt, right? Again, Jerusalem was never called Sodom, nor was it ever called Egypt. It is called the Holy Land. It's called the Land of Promise, right? So America, again, being the resemblance to both places, we know for a fact that the data, the facts, and the signs and symptoms all match what the Bible say it was going, how it was going to happen and when it was going to happen. So that's why we can walk with our heads up strong, knowing that Yahweh being Yahweh is the true God and we are the true people. Praise Yahweh, because we can look at the end result, the end of the curses placed on Israel in Deuteronomy 28:15 through 68. That if we didn't follow the law, then all of those curses would be put on Israel. And we are the only people that faces all those curses. Right? We are the only people who have faced hardships like a broad bondage. Right? If Jesus really came 2,000 years ago, why is there no peace on earth? Wouldn't Armageddon would have already happened? Why would Armageddon happen 2,000 years later when he ain't here to teach his people as much information to restore them as possible? It makes no sense. So, I just wanted to just drop that knowledge on you. We're going to pause right here. So we're at the 24-minute mark. I hope y'all like this information. We got a whole lot more to discuss. I pray that you all have a wonderful day. I need a whole family. Just, again, study. It's very important. It's the Shabbat. So I pray that you get to it. And, again, stay safe. Shalom, shalom.